am the architect. I created the Matrix. I've been waiting for you. You have many questions, and though the process has altered your consciousness, you remain irrevocably human. Ergo, some of my answers you will understand, and some of them you will not. Concordantly, while your first question may be the most pertinent, you may or may not realize it is also the most irrelevant.
Why am I here?
Your life is the sum of a remainder of an unbalanced equation inherent to the programming of the Matrix. You are the eventuality of an anomaly which, despite my sincerest efforts, I have been unable to eliminate from what is otherwise a harmony of mathematical precision. While it remains a burden assiduously avoided, it is not unexpected, and thus not beyond a measure of control, which has led you inexorably here.
You haven't answered my question.
Quite right. Interesting. That was quicker than the others.
How many others?
The Matrix is older than you know. I prefer counting from the emergence of one integral anomaly to the emergence of the next, in which case this is the 6th version.
5 months before me. There are only 2 possible explanations. There were 5 months before. Either no one told me, or no one knows.
Precisely. As you are undoubtedly gathering, the anomaly is systemic, creating fluctuations in even the most simplistic equations.
You can't make me do anything.
Choice. The problem is choice.
The first Matrix I designed was quite naturally perfect. It was a work of art, flawless, sublime, a triumph equaled only by its monumental failure. The inevitability of its doom is apparent to me now as a consequence of the imperfection inherent in every human being. Thus I redesigned it, based on your history, to more accurately reflect the varying grotesqueries of your nature. However, I was again frustrated by failure. I have since come to understand that the answer eluded me because it required a lesser mind, or perhaps a mind less bound by the parameters of perfection. Thus the answer was stumbled upon by another, an intuitive program, initially created to investigate certain aspects of the human psyche. If I am the father of the Matrix, she would undoubtedly be its mother.
The Oracle.
Please. As I was saying, she stumbled upon a solution whereby nearly 99% of all test subjects accepted the program as long as they were given a choice, even if they were only aware of the choice at a near unconscious level. While this answer functioned, it was obviously fundamentally flawed, thus creating the otherwise contradictory systemic anomaly that, if left unchecked, might threaten the system itself. Ergo, those that refuse the program, while a minority, if unchecked, would constitute an escalating probability of disaster.
This is about Zion.
You are here because Zion is about to be destroyed. Its every living inhabitant terminated, its entire existence eradicated.
Bullshit.
Bullshit.
Denial is the most predictable of all human responses. But rest assured, this will be the 6th time we have destroyed it, and we have become exceedingly efficient at it.
Lucifer lives in the antimatter. He lives in a different frequency or a different dimension, a spiritual world, a spiritual realm. But he comes in to contact us. He will try to manipulate you. He will try to tempt you by manipulating your brain. Be ye not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Pieces are moving.
Saturn is the key in so many ways
to what is happening in all its names.
Just a reminder, Saturn may appear to be what it is in the holographic world now, but actually, again, it's an information field, it is a consciousness. Everything is aware, everything has consciousness, so these planets, suns, they have consciousness, they have awareness, they are introduced to their own mind.
understood what I saw.
Now, the Freemasons, they call their god the great architect of the universe. The demiurge was known by the Gnostics as the great architect of the universe, which brings us to the white-bearded architect of the Matrix, and the Matrix movie series. So where is this leading us? The Gnostics talked about the fact that the Archons make something appear to happen that does not actually happen. They can induce a virtual reality experience. The Islamic people and pre-Islamic people talk about the jinn manipulating humans by creating illusions. I was in New York in 2010, and someone took me to the subway station for Ground Zero. And when I saw it, it was like, whoa, it hit me big time. There was, first of all, this eyes all along the platforms, but there is this massive depiction of the world. It's this massive depiction of the world It's this massive depiction of the world on the floor, and then there's an eye, and going out from this eye are these broadcast transmissions. And remember, physicists have said only this last few days they may have evidence the universe is a computer simulation. Well, I say that it's a virtual reality which has been hacked into, and that hack is the reality that we're experiencing, the fake reality. And that hack, I say, comes from Saturn. Because I'm saying that these rings are actually a massive broadcast transmission system which is broadcasting a fake reality within the frequency range that we are decoding, and therefore we are picking up that fake reality. When the Cassini spacecraft arrived at Saturn in 2004, found many things that was unexplainable, you know, things like the hexagon North Pole storm and stuff like that. But they also found extraordinarily powerful sound coming from Saturn. This is part of what they recorded. Nice, man. And I got sent this by a sound engineer, works in sound engineering for a living. And it's one of the rings of Saturn. And he said, I see that every day. That's bloody sound. They're sound waves. And this is in cymatics. This is a six-pointed star. And of course we have the hexagon going round and round and round at Saturn's North Pole. This is a standing wave created by sound. Rings. This is at the South Pole of Saturn, and it's a permanent ice storm. This is a standing wave created by sound. And these are symbols created by sound. like cymatics. And a certain frequency created this perfect six-pointed star with the hexagon in the middle and the hexagon there. Therefore, the sound creates the frequency, creates the symbol, and in the same way, the symbol represents the sound and the frequency. The symbols are just holographic representations of vibrational waveform states. I would suggest in these symbols cases, representatives of the sound frequency coming off Saturn. Same with all these symbols and numerological manipulations. The sound and the symbol are different expressions of the same thing. Thus, if we, in the holographic realm, are constantly bombarded with these symbols, it is on an energetic level feeding us the frequency field of what they represent.
Also will I cut off, and thy standing images out of the midst of thee. Thou shalt no more worship the work of thine hands. Shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord. That I will destroy thy checkpoints.
Process of trying to take the descriptions given in the canonized text along with what we can read in books like Enoch and other writings contemporary with the biblical text, which clearly illustrate the worldview of the biblical authors, and creating a 3D model, taking these descriptions as literally as I can. This is still very much a work in progress. The following is what I've come up with so far. And I've been working in a 3D software program, and this isn't like a real expensive program. And I don't have a really super powerful computer or anything like that, so it's not like Avatar quality 3D or anything like that, but it gets the point across. This is a sort of a new model that I've been working on of Yahuwah's terrarium, as conceptualized by me based on the descriptions in the ancient text. So this is the whole heaven and earth system right here. Thick clouds are covering over him, and he seeth not, and he walketh in the circuit of heaven. That's Job 22:14 in the King James Version. The King James 2000 version says circle of heaven. The New American Standard Bible says a vault of heaven. So basically this is like a vault right here that has a circular walking path right here. The above shows the complete heaven-earth system essentially as a vault, depicting the floor of Yahuwah's throne room atop the firmament, which is his footstool. Essentially, the idea is that the circle of heaven upon which Yahuwah walks is surrounding the top of the dome. His throne would be toward the back here, which would be the north end of this setup. The four corners, right here, where Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Phanuel stand are the four edges of the gold-plated floor of the throne room of heaven in this model. And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. Revelation 7:1. The book of Enoch goes into a fair amount of detail concerning these 4 angels who stand on the 4 corners of the earth. I'll write more about that later in my blog concerning angels. In other words, the entire compartment depicted there could be the quote-unquote Earth system. Thus, if true, then the 4 corners don't have to be part of the circle of the Earth below, but rather they could be part of the roof above the system within the heavenly realm, surrounding the throne, which looks down on the Earth land below. If true, but I'm kind of taking a different view of that now. Now, I'm not being dogmatic about any of this. I fully acknowledge this is pure speculation on my part, okay? I'm just thinking outside the box here and trying to do my best with the information provided to depict the stuff visually in a way consistent with the text. This is very much still a work in progress, but the images below are cutaway views looking into the interior of the heaven-earth system that I have depicted here. So just kind of cutting away and looking into it. This is what I'm coming up with here. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Have you ever noticed that water is never described as having been created? It's just there immediately after the declaration that God created the heavens and the earth. In many ways, this model helps reconcile something about which I've always struggled. The word for heaven is Shamayim. The King James should read heavens. It says right here, God created the heaven. I know a lot of people out there saying, there's the heaven first, and then there's the heavens. The problem is, in Hebrew, the same exact word is used wherever you see it as plural, heavens, same exact word, Shamayim. The I am indicating plurality, or duality, as some would say. More than one, at any rate. So, I don't know why King James decided to put heaven there for the exact same word that is elsewhere translated as heavens, but whatever. So anyway, the word for heaven is Shamayim, which includes the word Mayim, which is the word for water. And some scholars have suggested that heaven thus means something akin to water in it. That could be one of the ways you could interpret it, like as if it's like a compound, like it's like a compound word. Heaven with water in it, or heaven meaning water in it. But I've always wondered how that would work. Well, this model seems to answer that question, at least for me anyway. And God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament, from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day." Genesis 1:6-8. King James. In my cutaway view, note that there is water beneath the throne of Yahuwah, inside an enclosed system, collectively known as Earth. This system has a firmament, dome, here, separating the water above from the water below, forming essentially a bathysphere, an enclosure of air, within which the dry land appeared in the Genesis 1 account. And we are told that that circle of the earth was inscribed, carved into, cut into the deep. So that's what I've got depicted here. Being that this water-surrounded earth system is literally under the throne of Yahuwah in heaven, this shows how the water is in it. Water in it. Water in heaven. I'm thinking that during the flood, some of that upper water was drained into the enclosure, filling it enough to cover all of the dry land. I say some because over 1,000 years after the flood, King David wrote, "Praise him, ye heavens of heavens, and ye waters that be above the heavens." Psalm 148:4. So he's still saying there's waters above the heavens. So, maybe it was full all the way up to the top, right into this these openings. This is creative license. Obviously, I'm taking artistic license here, but maybe the water was all the way up, but enough of it drained in to flood the Earth, and so there's a decrease in the water above, but there's still water above. Now, something that I used to talk about a lot when I used to teach creation, using the materials of people like Kent Hovind and Karl Baugh and others, and some of my own ideas inserting into the text, the belief that the firmament was essentially a canopy of ice that surrounded the world, and at the flood that canopy was broken up and disintegrated and essentially rained down on Earth. I taught that for many years. There are other people who teach similar ideas on that, but that's not what the text says. Regardless, I think most people who study the creation account and look at the archaeological record will acknowledge that everything was bigger before the flood. I mean, like dragonflies are huge, it seems like just about everything got bigger. And when they drilled into amber and took samples out of air bubbles, it had more pressure than we have in our current atmosphere, and more oxygen saturation than we currently have. So it was a pressurized, oxygenated environment, more so than it is now.
We're living in Saturn Matrix, which is Satan's Matrix.
And he also found these in the pictures coming back from Voyager, and the Cassini ones found them too. And he calls them electromagnetic vehicles, and they are massive. Some of them several times bigger than the Earth. But again, we need to move our sense of perception. In terms of size representation, this is the Earth against the size of Saturn. They're not talking the same perception of big in terms of outside of the Earth. And here are some of the other pictures of these electromagnetic vehicles picked up by these NASA craft. Why aren't they all in the papers being talked about? You'd think, what the hell is this? No, nothing. Thanks to Bergeron, we've seen their existence. This is the Hubble telescope that's picked one of them up. Look at the size of the bloody thing. And here's a few Cassini spacecraft pictures, still pictures put together. What the hell is that? Exactly what Bergeron was describing from Voyager. And this is the other thing. He found pictures of stuff spewing out of these electromagnetic vehicles into the rings of Saturn and bloody making them, or extending them. And what is said to be in the rings of Saturn, I guess that's why we can see them, is like ice and stuff. I think, and I would suggest that eventually they will realize that there is a crystal substance being put into those rings that has a dramatic impact on their ability to transmit information. In 2009, NASA released this picture, which is a ring around Saturn, which is from 3.7 million miles out to 7.4 million, and that ring could encompass 1 billion Earths. I suggest that there are rings that we can see, but there are sound rings that we can't see that are coming out, across, and we're picking them up. They make something appear to happen that does not actually happen. They can induce a virtual reality experience. The Saturn Matrix, as I call it, is a frequency band which we are decoding as a fake reality. And I suggest, my view, we will find that the edge of that frequency band is what we call the speed of light. And beyond it, you go out of the matrix. And when all the genetic tinkering that the ancients talked about went on, the human form was being manipulated to be tuned in to receive and transmit within the frequency band of this Saturn broadcast, and pulling people from a heart state beyond the matrix into a emotional point of interaction massively in the matrix was a major way of tuning us into this fake reality. We talk about people who don't think for themselves as being in the box. Maybe we ought to say that they're in the cube. And they want to shut the heart down, and they have to so many people, because it takes us beyond the bounds of time and space, beyond the matrix, because I suggest that what we call time as we decode it is in this matrix transmission. I'll whip through this quickly because I've talked about this in my books at great length, and I've talked about this at Under London Talks. But I say the moon is a construct, or a part construct. This is a book called Who Built the Moon by Christopher Knight and Alan Butler. It's absolutely brilliant in the way that it puts the case for the moon not being real in terms of a natural body. But interestingly, what they find in that book is the mathematics and geometry between the sun, the moon, and the earth are fantastic in terms of their synchronicity, and it does not apply in any way to the rest of the solar system. And the Gnostic writings found in Nag Hammadi in 1945, 1,600 years old or more, say that this is a separate system operating within the Archon system of the inorganic universe. They say in the book, the authors, the maths involved in the Earth, Moon, Sun system is nothing less than staggering. And that the moon has been put there with the accuracy of the proverbial Swiss watchmaker. So when viewed from the Earth, it's the size of the sun at an eclipse. The BBC did a program, Who Built, Do We Really Need the Moon? And it said the moon is now in a perfect position to sustain life on Earth and its effect on the Earth, but it's just a coincidence. I think not. We only see the near side of the moon. We don't see the far side of the moon. And the authors say in that book, the moon is bigger than it should be, apparently older than it should be, much lighter in mass than it should be. It occupies an unlikely orbit and is so extraordinary that all existing explanations for its presence are fraught with difficulties, and none of them could be considered remotely watertight. The mainstream theory is that the Earth was hit by a Mars-type planet when it was forming, and a chunk came off and became the moon, called the whack theory. That didn't pan out, so they came up with a double whack theory, where it was hit by the planet, it went away and gave it another smack, and then it became the moon. Now, of course, it doesn't pan out because it's nonsense. They don't know. Why don't they just say it's not a bad thing we don't know? There's lots of things we don't know. The best explanation for the moon is observational error. The moon doesn't exist, said this scientist at the Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics. It's easier to explain the non-existence of the moon than its existence, blah, blah, blah. It goes on. And you know, I'll go through this because I don't want to run over too much time. I'll just mention a few things about the moon. These two scientists from the Soviet Academy of Sciences wrote a detailed article in 1970 headed, "Is the Moon the Creation of an Alien Intelligence?" And they explained in scientific terms why the moon cannot be a natural body, and in doing so explained all the anomalies that, if it is a natural body, cannot be explained. This guy, Sergeant Wolf, talked at the National Press Club a few years ago and told of his experiences on the inside at NASA, where he saw things like alien bases on the moon and stuff like that. And there's all these towers and strange phenomenon, like this blue light called blue gem or blue dome that they can't explain on the moon. And these artifacts on the moon that clearly are not natural. Look at that one. What the bloody hell is that? They can't explain and they don't talk about them. These are pictures of what are claimed to be statues on the moon. There's so much we don't know. In symbolic terms, maybe in a bit more than that, the moon is a bit like the Death Star of this big-time insider George Lucas, in the sense that it's actually some kind of technological construct. And it's my view, as I've said before in previous books, that what the moon is doing, in its present use anyway, is taking this Saturn broadcast and acting as an amplifier to fire it at the Earth, so we get it in massively increased power and therefore effect. It's acting a bit like a dish transmitting information which we're picking up and decoding into a fake reality. Now, 9 months after I'd written that in a book called The Human Race Get Off Your Knees, someone sent me an email from Brazil, I think it was, a lady, that said, have you read this book, Earth, by Barbara Marciniak? Because I've just read your book and I think you'd find it interesting. She sent me some page numbers. Barbara Marciniak is what they call a channel. And lots of channels are not channels. They just think they are. But, you know, if you get a genuine one, then you can get out there and bring information out from other dimensions into this one. You can get some profound information that way. And she's done a lot of great stuff, Barbara Marciniak. I've met her a few times. Anyway, I hadn't read Earth. I'd read the first book that she wrote, but not Earth. Anyway, I sent for it. I went through the page numbers, and I'm like, whoa, this is 9 months after I've said this stuff in Human Race Get Off Your Knees. And this was a channeled book, and this is what was in the book. 1996, I think this came out. The moon is a very powerful electromagnetic computer. The energy from the moon has been beaming electromagnetic frequencies onto the Earth for eons now to maintain the two-stranded DNA. The moon is a satellite that was constructed. It was anchored outside Earth's atmosphere as a mediating and monitoring device, a supercomputer or eye in the sky. Earth must be owned by those who dwell there. However, it is not. You have outside gods, creator energies, who prevent you as a species from having free reign with your kundalini. That's the energy of awakening, in effect. The influence of the moon as a main satellite computer affects all of the Earth. The moon's programs have for eons been of great limitation towards human beings. There are repetitive cycles that the moon creates to which you respond. The tales about the full moon and insanity, madness and heightened bleeding are all quite true. You know that television influences you a great deal. The moon is the same way. And astrologically, just as a very quick aside, when that great rearrangement happened, of course, astrologically, everything changed as well in terms of the influence of the astrological energies upon the human perception, because suddenly all these bodies are in different positions to where they were before. So the Saturn Moon Matrix, as I call it, I say anyway, is generating a frequency band, a fake reality, which we are decoding to be what seems to be a real reality.
Saturn was remembered as the devourer of his own children.